Everyone, it is Beth with Flying by the Seed of My Plants, and today I started yesterday transplanting peppers, but there's a couple things I want to go over. My peppers, they're just growing really fast. I kind of wish I would have waited maybe 2 weeks to plant them, waited another 2 weeks, if that really would have made a difference. I do add the trifecta fertilizer when I uppot them, and they just go to town. So when I was transplanting, I want to go over this with you to try and, because they're so big and a lot of them are now root bound, so I have to uppot them. But to keep it from transplant shock as much as you can, number one, hopefully they're not root bound. Number two, it's very important that they are hardened off before you put them in. And that's where you start them out in the shade for several hours, and then slowly put them in the sun towards evening. In the beginning, they're in the shade most of the day, and then they might get a little bit of sun, and then slowly put them in the sun. And I don't like to do putting them in the sun in the high heat of the day. So you want to wait, towards evening when the sun is getting ready to start setting, or in the early morning. But in the first 2 to 3 days, the majority is going to be shade. This way they're getting used to being outdoors. So, because they've been protected for so long. So we've had some really, for the last, 4 or 5 nights, in the evenings, it's been in the 30s. So I have moved these back in the house, back under grow lights, and they've done fine. But I transplanted, and I'm going to show you a couple things, but I transplanted some yesterday into my raised beds, and when I came out this morning, they were extremely unhappy. So I watered them really good. So first thing, when you go to transplant, you want to make sure that you do water the pot that they're in before you put them in the ground, and put them in and then water again. I mean, don't oversaturate to where you're going to rot the roots, but if you water them really good in the soil that they're in, with the pot they're in, they'll do much better when you transplant them. So I'm going to show you what's been going on, because these are getting so big. What is this one? A shishito. If you could see the tops of the plant, those leaves are not real happy. And I could see some of the roots are starting to come out on the bottom. So they absolutely, definitely outgrew these pots. And this is, at least, if you're running into the weather, you couldn't plant them outside, which is basically what we ran into. Plus improper planting for sowing the seeds for me. I think I should have waited a couple weeks. And the thing is, I kept going by my last frost date, even though still I should have waited 2 weeks. Or 3 weeks even. Because they just grow so fast. At least for me they do. But I have a plant sale coming up, and that's going to be another week to 2 weeks. And, people are going to look at that. They're not going to want to buy it. Plus, I don't want to sell it like that either. So anyhow, this is the shishito, and there are some that I uppotted probably 2 or 3 days ago, and they were looking just like this. So when I uppotted, I went into a much larger container, and these are recovering nicely. Here's another one that I did. And the leaves on top, they're still little, but they're opening up, they're uncurling, and so that makes me happy. But the only thing is, I did create a lot of work for myself, because there's a lot of them that look like this. And I don't want to sell them to somebody and then they just go ahead and put it in the ground, and then they start flopping over for them. So I got to make these guys well again, or happy. So I just wanted to go over that, you know, a couple things to prevent transplant shock. Water the plants. So I got some cubanelle I'm going to put in the back, and I'll take you along for that. And I'm going to water this pot really good. And, you know, another thing is when you know the pot or the ready to go outside is when it keeps drying up, the soil. Because that plant is just taking up the water. But anyhow, I do have to up-pot a lot of plants because they're big. Look how big they are. And they're not happy. So I just made a lot of work for myself. So note for next year, bug in my coffee. And just to wait. Peppers are like 8 to 10 weeks before your last frost. So next year, I'm going to say 8 to 10 weeks before my plants sell. And that's this year, weather permitting. And I'm supposed to do it on a Saturday, and already I'm seeing it might be raining and a little bit cooler. For the next few days, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. It's going in the 60s, 70s, and then at night lows are in the 50s. So that's why I'm like, you know what, I'm transplanting these into my garden, and already they're starting to look better. So anyhow, I'm going to take you to the back and show you the cubanelle and how I'm transplanting those. And the one thing about peppers, they like to hold hands. That's what I call it. So I plant them, I don't know, I try to do, Gabby, I try to do maybe 12 inches apart. So when they grow, number one, they support each other as they grow, and plus they get a little shade from each other. I mean, it's in the sun all day. Where I plant, my yard is basically all day sun, you know, until it gets behind some trees. But anyhow, they protect each other. And I've always done well with my peppers. This year, hopefully they all come out of being root bound. So, all right, I'm going to take you back by the cubanelles. Okay, so I am in the back now by my one raised bed that I put in, the metal one, 17 inches high. And the thing is, this used to all be a part of my in-ground, where these beds are, before I started using the wood ones. And the reason why I ended up getting those raised beds is it gets really, I don't know, the water just puddles around here. So whenever I always planted my zucchini and stuff over here, and it got just waterlogged, and they didn't do well. So then that's when I ended up just making this my raised bed behind me, and putting in, or I'm sorry, the in-ground one behind me, and then putting in these raised beds so I don't have to deal with it. And what brought my attention to just bringing that up, because I have this fabric down for the weeds, and the raised beds on top, which I did cut holes before I filled these beds up, and this way worms can get up in here. And I've seen a couple worms in here already, so it's doing it. So but anyhow, it was all wet back here, just even with this tarp down, or weed fabric. So I just thought about that and brought it up. So, all right. Anyhow, I placed my peppers where I want them, and I picked a lot of the ones that are, you know, having that issue where they just need to be transplanted. I went ahead and watered these. I'm going to water this one again. To the hose. I just want to make sure the soil is wet when I transplant them, because then I guess you could say they're being fooled into thinking they're just in their pots, and then in a few days they're going to spread out. The roots are, and I have my trifecta here, because with each plant I am adding about, I don't know, a teaspoon trifecta. So let me show you the placement that I did. So what I do is I kind of go by, the number 5 on a dice. So I have 1, 2, 1 right in the middle, 1 here, and 1 here. And from the center of this container to this container is about 12 inches. So, and they're going to grow just nice. They're, like I said, peppers like to hold hands, and they're going to get nice and tall. And throughout this time, as they were getting flowers, because they really wanted to produce flowers and peppers while in the pots, I was picking them off. Some of them are still on here, which I can remove them so they can still concentrate on their roots. So I watered these really good, and then I'm just going to start planting them. So, and this is a really good soil, and peppers aren't like tomatoes, so I'm going to bury them right to the pot line and not bury the root like I would with tomatoes. Okay, so there is that root, and as you can see, it wanted to start growing out of the pot. So I am not going to disturb the roots because they're going through enough already. They right now they are not happy. They're getting that leaf curl going on because they just don't have any more room to grow in those pots. So the least amount of plant shock that I could possibly do. Put some more trifecta. Mix that trifecta in. And this pot is well moistened, but you could see how the tips, these aren't curling so much right now, but if I would leave them in the pot, they would. They would not be happy. So I'm going to take these out. You can see all those roots. So it's ready to be transplanted for sure. Thank God the weather finally let up for us. So I feel good that, it's okay to plant out. Now, if it does go down to freezing, I'm going to have to run around and cover them up. But I didn't see any of that in the forecast for the next 10 days at least. I'm adding my fertilizer. See, that one has a root coming out there already. Yep. And I'm just putting it level with the pot where the plant is. And putting it in there gently. And I will just keep repeating. And I'll tell you, just the last few weeks anyhow, it's been crazy weather. We go from beautiful 80 degrees. In fact, February I think was better weather than what we had for April. Now we're in May 5th. And I'm going to show you how I wash all these pots out too, because they will be reused. And I'm also going to save those tags for next year. All right, so going with the number 5. as much as I can. And this is a really good soil, and it's new soil, you know, when I filled the raised bed, so. Put that in. I'm not disturbing the roots. Watered it really well to try and keep that transplant shock down as much as I can. And then I'll basically do the same thing when I up-pot them to larger pots. Now, I have some over here. If you can see that, these guys are fine. I'm not even going to plant these because hopefully these will make it to the plant sale the way they are. So, anyhow. So now you can see like the number 5 on a dice. So I have this one here, and they're all about at least 12 inches apart. And like I said, they like to hold hands, you know, where they're touching each other. In the beginning, they're not so much touching, but as they grow, they will. And the peppers will do fine. They got enough space for the roots on the bottom. So I'm going to keep going with this, and then I have some bell peppers I have to plant, and just whatever peppers I'm putting in my garden, they're going in today. They can't be in the pots anymore. So, all right, I wanted to show you that, and milkweed's probably going to go in today. And now that all the plants are out of my house, well, almost all of them, there's a lot still under grow lights, and I could show you that later too. But a lot I will be up-potting for my plant sale, doing the Tiny Tim in the larger container with the lettuce surrounding it. I am going to do that for the plant sale. And I did look at the weather for here in Northeast Ohio in Litchfield. It's showing possible rain for when I wanted to do the plant sale the day before Mother's Day. So I'll have to see how that goes. Otherwise, I am just going to do Mother's Day in my front yard, and that Saturday I could do it in my front yard. You know, if I'm at the plant sale in Litchfield at the flea market, it's going to be hard to stay out of the rain. You know, if I'm doing the plant sale there, where at least here I can run in the house or whatever. Just thinking out loud to you guys. So, all right. I'm going to finish planting these, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. But yeah, the number 5, watering them really good before I transplant. So they're comfortable with the soil they're in right now, and it's not going to be as much as a shock. So. Okay, so I got all the cubanelle in. So now I am working on my bell peppers, and I am really excited about those. I'll tell you the different ones that I have. I have the California Wanderer, which will be a green pepper, Big Red, and with all of these, I'm going to make sure I leave the tag with the plant because they're different colors. So I want to make sure, you know, they'll start out green. I want to make sure that they finish out the color. So I have Big Red, I have a Canary Bell, a Purple Beauty, an Orange Bell. So I'm pretty excited about that, which will be good for peppers and onions, stuffing them. I could chop them up and freeze them. And the cubanelle, you know, I do those. I got 18 of those in, and that's great for stuffing. I love stuffing them with Italian sausage. So I got everything placed where I want it, so I'm going to go ahead and complete that. Bringing you back real quick. I mean, look at that. Root bound. So those top leaves would not be happy. So I definitely have to get these in the ground. A whole bunch over there I could show you that I have to up pot. And again, because they're so big, they have a really good chance of transplant shock. So I have to water these again, just so that the soil is really moist. And I did water this bed. I don't want anything soggy wet, but just where they feel good in the soil they're in, I'm going to water them really good before I transplant them and add that fertilizer. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you how it looks when it's done. And I'm doing the number 5 again, and spacing is about 12 inches from each plant. And I'm talking about the center, you know. I'm measuring from this point, not the edge of the container. So, all right, I'm going to get on with this, and I'll bring you back. Okay, so these peppers are in. So I got all the cubanelle on this side and all the different bell peppers on the other side. And the spacing, it's about a foot. I thought maybe I could squeeze one in there, but I'm not going to. So I am going to keep you updated on how these look in a couple of days. And one thing, they're watered really well, so they're good for today. So tomorrow morning, first thing I'm going to do is check on them and see if they need any watering. Because the one thing I don't want to happen is them to go into shock. And the other bed, which I'll go back and show you that again, all the peppers over there, mainly my hot peppers are all over there. These are all my sweet peppers. I still have to put the Hungarian hot peppers in. And I'm going to go through all my peppers. Datil. It's an extremely hot pepper. That was a free one from Baker's Creek. I'm going to try and give those away, but I am going to plant one. So, wanted to show you this, and then I'll show you over there along the fence with the hot peppers. Okay, so all along the fence here, I went ahead and these are all of my hot peppers. And I did a bunch of jalapenos. I love jalapeno. I love cowboy candy. I love stuffing jalapenos. Plus I do a jalapeno jelly, hot pepper jelly. And Anaheim for salsa. And I got paprika. I planted 5 of those because I want to be able to grow them and powder them up, dehydrate them, powder them up. And then for the wimpy ones, not a Pinot, meaning no heat. There's the Tam jalapeno. Let's see. Of course, the onions. There's my big old sage. And more onions over here, which I'm going to transplant some more onions back in that bed. And then I have that final bed there. I'm going to have to see how these peppers do when I up-pot them. Oh, I have a couple of hot, or Count Draculas in here. And through the years, the first year they were a deep purple, the leaves. And so through the years, they have been cross-pollinating, I believe, with the jalapenos, because I usually plant them close to them. So, anyhow. And it doesn't affect the first year, of course, when they get cross-pollinated. It's the second year if you're saving seeds. So, okay, there's all those peppers, and now I gotta up-pot. I have to up-pot these poor little things. So I'm gonna water these up really good and put them in a larger pot. And it's just crazy because I was finally getting room because I was planting my peppers, but now that I have to up pot into bigger pots, it's going to even take more room. So Let's see, yeah, a lot of these leaves want to curl up because they are not happy. So hopefully they all transplant well. And they start perking back up. If they don't, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So, all right, wanted to show you that. Okay, so I got all the peppers planted, the hot peppers. I still got to do the Hungarian hot wax though, and one of the datil. But I got all the hot peppers in, I got all the sweet peppers in, and that makes me very happy. So now I have to up-pot these peppers so that they'll be nice and healthy for my plant cell. So I went ahead, and my pots I've been getting from Greenhouse Megastore, and I like their product. I like their service. I haven't had any problems with them. You know, some reviews I've seen, you know, where some of the pots are cracked, but I'm sure if you call them up, they would probably send you replacements, is my thoughts. I haven't had that problem. So I have different size pots. So this is what I planted my peppers in. And look at that root. It is not happy. So, this is a 3.5-inch pot, and typically this was what I potted to before for my peppers, but I started them later. On this tag, it says I started these February 12th. And then I have other ones that I started like March 2nd, which are fine. So I think I, you know, should have waited a couple weeks before I started my peppers. But anyhow, so this is what I'm dealing with. And then there's the top where it just isn't happy. So I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to water the pots and try not to disturb as much as possible. So then to up-pot them, I did buy these. These are 4-inch pots. These are a really nice size pot. The problem is I don't have that many because that's what I potted all my tomatoes into. And to be honest, I don't know, at this point in time, I almost think they're too big. But so then I went back on the Mega Greenhouse Megastore, and they have these, which fit into the trays that these pots fit into. And that's the other thing with the 4-inch pots. I had to get bigger trays to put in. So that was the other thing that I didn't like about it, because then I can't use a 10-20 tray either. So this one, just to compare it in size, it's about another 1.5 inches deeper. I don't know, you know, next year for sure. I'm going to wait another couple weeks. I'm making a note of that. But I think this pot, I just ordered more of these. And this is what I'm going to up some of these into, the ones that don't look real bad, and see how they do. And, oh, I left the hose over there because I want to water that really good. Hang on. Okay, I put the battery and I got it wet. Anyhow, so I put soil in the bottom. Now, take this here, and I'm not going to touch any roots. I'm not going to disturb them. Push it down a little. Added a little soil on top. And there. hopefully these pots will do the trick. I'll probably just do a tray of these, see how they do. I don't know. The ones that are not bad, yes, you know what? I'm going to put those all in here. The ones that are really bad, I'm going to put in here. I think that's what I'm going to do. So, all right, I just wanted to bring you along and explain about the, you know, trying to prevent transplant shock. You know, that works for me. And in the morning, okay, so right now, you know, I watered everything this morning. I transplanted those hot peppers all yesterday, and watered them. When I got up this morning, they were not happy. They were, you know, the leaves started drooping and everything, so I watered them really good, and they all perked up. So, and I'll show you again how they look, but I showed you the ones that I did transplant to the big pots, and they're starting to get better as far as the leaf on top. You know, you're going to see curling if it's root bound. You're going to see curling, and they're just not going to be happy. And when they're not happy, we're not happy. So, anyhow, all right, so I wanted to bring you along for that. There's still so much more I got to do. But if you like gardening, it's worth it. So anyhow, all right, I'm going to let you guys go, and thank you so much for joining me. And again, if you guys like the content and you're new to the channel, just go ahead and hit the subscribe. And I notice I keep getting, I think there's like about 70 some new subscribers in the last month. So I really, really, really appreciate that. I appreciate everybody that has subscribed. And I'll just bring you along through my whole planting season, plus preserving. And this year I want to can a bunch of salsa. Last year I did a lot of tomato sauce, and not so much spaghetti sauce, but tomato sauce, because you can use it for so many different things. So it's not just like for spaghetti. I mean, I use it for chili, and I love the San Marzano. And with, you know, today's prices, things are rising, food prices, so preserving is a good thing to learn. So hopefully you guys are gardening. If you're a first-time gardener, it's really not hard. I mean, you guys are really lucky. I know when I started gardening, I always go off. But anyhow, when I started gardening, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have Google, you know, YouTube. I love YouTube. Oh my gosh, it's so educational on so many different things. It's my favorite. I don't even have cable TV. I'm done with cable. I'm done paying them money. But anyhow, we didn't have all of that. So if you're new to gardening, it's so easy just to Google, you know, how do I plant a pepper? How do I plant a tomato? And, you know, you have to research it. I mean, a lot of people have their own techniques, including me. Okay, so before I start going off on another subject here, I'm going to go ahead and finish up potting these pepper plants. And so I hope that was helpful as far as the best way you can try to prevent transplant shock. And, you know, it's working for me. And, you know, you just have to check them every morning. And just make sure they're not drooping. And, you know, if they are, they probably need some water, so check it and water them. The ones that I did yesterday, like I said this morning, the leaves were all starting to droop, but I gave them all a nice drink of water, and they're all doing great. So I'd say the next 5-6 days, next week, you know, we'll see how they do, and I will bring you back and show you how they're doing. And if I lose some, you know, I'm going to share that with you too. So, all right, I have to get busy, and again, I just want to say thank you so much to all the subscribers, all the new ones. Hey, Abby. Abby's just looking at me. All the new subscribers, thank you. The ones that, you know, have been following me and supporting me, I really do appreciate that. And, you know, if you guys have run into different things that work for you as far as, you know, transplanting your plants, and typically I don't have a problem, but because they are so root bound and in the small pot, and they've gotten so big, it definitely could be a problem. So number one, just make sure you harden them off, and then before you transplant into your garden, that's really important, because they could just drop dead, you know, if you have not prepared them to go in. And that takes about 5 days. You can stretch it to 7 days or however long it takes. Don't rush it. And then, of course, when planting, you know, go ahead and get the pot, water it, and I'm not disturbing the roots with my peppers. I'm just putting them in the ground, and check on them every morning to make sure they're doing okay. And so that's about it. All right, I am going to let you go, and thank you again, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. If I'm doing other stuff, I'll be posting another video. And the next 5 days is going to be absolutely gorgeous, so you'll probably see some more videos. So, all right, have a great day. Talk to you later. Thank you.